Myself, I'm Anil Kumar. I'm based in Berlin, Germany. I would also like to know, can you just write me in the chat if where are you connecting from? If we can write it out on where are you connecting from. Would also like to learn a little bit more about you. Yeah. This is a train station. I want to tell a story about some of the user testing sessions I applied and used in my previous roles, mainly focused on developer-focused products and how it helped me in uncovering the needs and the benefits for the developers-focused products. This is a screenshot from a stop, one of the stop near my home, where during the COVID, there was a good analogy to say what does the 1.5 meter looks like. And it's interesting to see that whatever we assume as a builders, for us, it makes a lot of sense, but it always better to give what is the end user point of view. Looking your products, what you build from a end user point of view, if you have empathy, if you see from that angle, you might see things in a different way. What is obvious for us, it's not obvious for end user. It's about uncovering that what is not obvious. That's what you're going to get it from the user testing, and that's what you're going to get when you're doing a pair programming with your developer, using your product. This is another example. Fundamentally, I want to talk to you about there's a difference between developer experience and user experience. Developer experience, there is a difference. If you're understanding like, hey, yes, developer experience is also about user experience, but where user is developer, of course, yes, but there is a fundamental difference I want to talk. The difference is most of the principles and tools you have today, which is focused on the UX tools we use for understanding the user behavior. It's more like a restaurant analogy. A developer or a builder who actually looks like works in the kitchen as a chef, but whereas our users are on the table and they're going to have a different experience. Of course, we build the things, the chef prepares the food for the end users. We are talking about the user experience here, whereas a developer experience is more on the context of here in this analogy, it's for makers, it's for builders. The tools they use, the environment they operate is quite different. It's very important to understand that. That's why some of the tools we apply for the user experience and user testing might not be the way you're going to get the exact understanding. What is the pain? What is the underlying need for this maker? And there is also a famous tweet from Sarah. She now works at Google. The developers who are coming to your documentation or to your product, if you don't have a great onboarding experience, they're going to be just leaving you. They're not going to be kind of getting back to you. So it's like a reducing the traffic for your the platform. And another thing you need to think about, looking from an analogy of the kitchen and the table in a restaurant, there is an important difference where developers spend most of their time. They're going to be spending either consuming an API, either consuming a CLI, the command line interface terminal, or an IDE, where they're going to be spending a lot of their time. And also, we need to understand what they do and how they do differently compared to just we apply only the user experience technique, where either it can be a mobile app or a user interface, a web application. There's also a popularity of going AI tools coming. For example, this is from the last year, GitHub CEO talked about there is already a Copilot tool which is generating 40% of code. we need to be also be aware of how this is going to be influencing developers while building applications. And developers also has a lot of tools choice. It's not like they're going to be using only your tool. They might also be considering some alternative tools, some open source tool. They got a lot of choice. They're going to pick one which kind of suits them, which kind of be a great experience, which provides a great developer experience. And again, when I talk about tool choice, like for example, you see here, there are 91 headless CMS available to choose. There's already a lot to choose from. For developers, it is a complex task to decide which one to work on. The one which works really well, obvious, is one which provides a great developer experience. How are you going to provide a great developer experience? By understanding the needs of a developer, by running, observing how they use your tool, by solving common pain points, the user pain points. That's how you're going to create a great developer experience. And this is a typical developer experience looks like. A developer comes and gets started with your tool, and they go through a docs. They're going to download, they're going to install some of the tools. They're going to find out their use case might not be missed. They might say, hey, this feature is missing. Or they might also face that your API or your service might be down, or you might have some deprecation, or you have some other challenges. Like these are some of the exceptions a developer might face. How are you responding? How are you provide fallback? Understanding those, the whole journey also really helps you. And very important point, while making this tools choice we talked about, even though developers not go and purchase the tool, it's maybe the leadership of developers or make a choice of purchasing. But developers make a huge part in influencing the buying decision, because developers go and try and prototype and POC and see if this fits into their tech stack and if it makes their work efficient. Then they're gonna reference, hey, this is gonna be a huge time saver for us, and I recommend using this tool because it provides a great developer experience, and we would like to work on this tool. So the recommendation of using your tool is higher if you have a great developer experience. And again, when it comes to developer persona, you might think that developer persona is only a one developer, but actually a developer persona can really vary a lot. For example, if you think developer is just a same, it's not. If you look at the distribution of developers, there can be a different developers using different tools to fit to their needs. Also need to consider about what is their tool preferences. And if you're providing, or if you're focusing mainly on JavaScript, then you can talk about the tools which are mostly used by developers, which are JavaScript developers, and what are the ways you can improve their experience. Similarly, think about what is your target users are and what tools they use and how you can enhance the developer experience based on what do they tools they use the most of the time. And for example, if you have seen the React documentation looks not just only advanced user. They talk about React for beginners, React for designers. So there is a multiple ways the journey you can get started. So thinking about multiple journeys for your end users based on their needs, you can create a great developer experience. Another example, which is about Fig, which is providing a more greater developer experience for terminal. Like you don't need to remember the commands; it suggests you auto suggest. This is also another way you can create a Fig command line for your tooling, so that it makes easy to get work done in much quicker way in terminal. This could be one example. Yeah, I want to tell a story about where document improvement at Contentful. I was working as a technical product manager. We were working on a design system called Format 36, and we plan to shift a version from V3 to V4. And as a part of that, I started talking to our community developers and also our customer developers. What are the use cases they are building for? What components are missing? What components we should provide? And what documentation we can provide? What so that they have a great developer experience. And one thing we noticed while I was performing a pair programming together with our community developer and also our customer developer, I started to see how they're using our design system React components. And also, I was able to see what are the components we don't provide today. For example, one of the common component we didn't provide that time at V3 was pagination. And developers don't wait for things to be available to be built by us. Instead, they're going to create their own or reuse some other library, a component. And I saw that a couple of our customers are reusing some other open source component library, and which gets then their job done, but it's going to create an inconsistent design, inconsistent experience. I wouldn't have known this. I wouldn't have known what are the most commonly used components if I didn't code and see what are the challenges, what are the interface they are trying to create. So while doing a pair programming session, you understand what tools they use, what documentation they refer. For example, we also have Format 36 storybook documentation and also the website for design system component. And I also noticed that experienced designers, experienced developer, front-end developers, they were not coming back to documentation, but they were looking into the TypeScript types as what type of arguments they can pass into the component. So this is also a great learning. Before, we were very much focused on documentation on this website, but we had a little bit less focus on the component types. But understanding that by providing great experience, because developers wanted to spend and work on their IDE, get things much faster, rather than switching the context between the website and to the IDE, they were able to get on time and develop quick things. So it helps us to focus on provide the type system and definitions and documentation on the type system along with the documentation on the website. Yeah. So the type system is actually kind of a guide or a documentation for developers. So it's very important. So with doing a pair programming, I was able to discover that how experienced developers are using TypeScript types to get auto suggestion and getting things much faster. And here you can see here one example from Commerce Tools where how TypeScript types can really enhance the developer experience for developers. This is a API for e-commerce. So you can already see that what methods I can call, what arguments I can call. So I don't have to go to documentation. I can see staying on the IDE, I'm able to get all the necessary IDs and argument information. That saves a developer time. That's a better developer experience. And there is another angle we can look into from a product or a developer tech team's point of view, a developer efficiency. Think about what are the common tasks which developers are done. Like every day, they're going to be running applications locally, thinking about common tasks, running application, testing it out, putting it in a production or deployment, how fast you can make that, how you can get that into effectiveness faster. The lower effectiveness, that means there is an area for improvement. And imagine developers might be running the applications and trying it out several times. It's going to be multiplied by that time you're consuming that time from developers. So if you can reduce that, if you can create a high effectiveness in your developer workflow, that's going to be a great way to optimize the efficiency of developers. And you can also look from a feedback point of view, same developer effectiveness. And other things which we learned from the pair programming at Contentful with Format 36, with the version V4, we introduced a sandbox. A lot of our customers wanted to try components on the fly quickly. They don't want to use, they want to see how it works and understand if it fits their need. Uh, Before, we didn't have this quick code sandbox. They have to create, they have to get the React bootstrapping. It was taking some time for them to uh, bootstrap and work on. With this code box, the code sandbox, they were able to tweak around with the code and try out the component, how it works and what fits there. And they just copy that code component, making it faster to test and validate and copy the code was a huge time saver, making it time to value, reducing it the time very quickly. Another example from Chakra UI, inspired by Chakra UI, you can see here that as a developer, I would like to see how it works, and you can get instant feedback. And if it works, and you can just copy that code, and so you don't have to bootstrap it. And we got inspired by this. And also from the pair programming session, we understood that sometimes developers wanted to just prototype and see if that component fits or not. Yeah, so you might be wondering, okay, this sounds good. Developer user testing and pair programming, I can talk about it, but I have some challenges. How do I do it? How do I make it quickly? If you look at to run such sessions, to understand, to uncover some of your learnings, like if it's really useful or not, your toolings which you're providing for developers, it can be quick. It doesn't have to be a long, lengthy process. The quickest way to find out participants is to start with dogfooding. What I mean by dogfooding is talk to your internal engineers, especially solution engineers, professional service team, developer advocates. They can be your first developers to try with. Like, you can do a pair programming with them, and they know a better context about your customer, and that way you already get a lot of insights. And other way is, if you have your community member, if you have active community member, before inviting them, you can also see how you can help them, like answer them. For example, at my case with Contentful, when I wanted to talk to community members, I looked into our community Slack channel. Instead of just reaching out to them to go and get a user testing session, because it's a big ask, they need to spend like 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Instead of asking them, I first started building a relationship with the community members. Like, I started providing the value. They come with some purpose, they have some challenges, try to answering them, try to help them first. Then you can express them that, hey, you being a technical product manager responsible for the design system, you wanted to improve the experience not only for community members but all customers. I would like to get an opinion and feedback from you. So usually, if you already help your community member and you build a trust, and they would really happy to help you and provide you more feedback. So this technique really worked well for me. So this is where it's important to constantly provide value to community. And when you need a feedback, or when you need a beta testing, it's very easy to get access to your pool of developers to test. And if you have got some money, like if you have got a budget for your testing, you can also try some recruit participants from freelance platform like Fire, where you can hire an experienced developer and do a pair programming session and see how they run through with your documentation. And that way you can try to get run quickly. And I've seen sometimes, if the product is popular among developers, where they also share it on social media. Other way to automate your getting more developers for testing is, this is my Slack, the Calendly link, where I put 15 minutes for my preparation, 15 minutes for analysis after the session, where I send this Calendly link for a pair programming session. This way, it's automated, like where I can share it with all the potential tech community members, where they can schedule a call, and it's already connected. Calendly is integrated with Zoom, my Zoom session, where I can record the screen and also the pair programming session, so that I can share with my team, so I can create a shared understanding. So yeah, in terms of preparation, it's important to ask some of the fundamental question, like what are you trying to get it to learn from here, from this usability testing session? Or you want to uncover the pain points, or you want to understand the journey where people are dropping off? Or it's very important to know what you wanted to get out from this testing session, so that it really helps you to analyze if you're some action items from your analysis, or if you want to prove something on your from your hypothesis. For example, at my current company where I work at Lokalise, as a one of the things we have was a developer portal called developers.lokalise.com. We were launching the developer portal. We were not sure if the developer portal was a great onboarding experience for developers. So, for example, the developer portal was here, and we were not sure if it's going to be useful for the API endpoints. We're not sure if it's useful, it's intuitive enough. So based on pair programming and user testing, we were able to figure out that for some of developers, it was not obvious how to use this platform. And we created a quick demo video, and we put in our landing page or of this REST API endpoint homepage. That's where most of the developers come and see. And if they don't understand, they can quickly see how it is used and how it is done. And this way, we were able to identify the issues. And some of the other issues we were also identify is in terms of experience. Is the ape header is clear? Is our default response is clear? Because sometimes you don't get developers always land here. Sometimes a technical product manager who want to see, understand how is the response looks like. Even though they don't have an API key, they can see how the response looks like. They already get what is the response looks like. And we were able to make a lot more tiny developer experience improvement by just only doing a pair programming and giving them the task, and uncovering how easy it is to play around with this platform and improve the developer experience. As a result, we get frequently some really nice codes and feedback from customers that they really like the documentation. They were able to get started quickly. It was only possible with these tiny developer experience improvements, micro improvements, we're able to detect only because of pair programming session. And there are other types. We also get feedback. We have a feedback form where developers can share a feedback. Time to time we get a feedback, but most of the time it was really helpful for us to have a clear what we want to learn, and validating our assumption and understanding the behavior of developers, and taking actions based on that. Yeah, another thing which you have to keep in mind, just to understand, our goal is to understand the thinking of developers, what's their behavior and why they're making the choice. It's very important to ask open-ended question. If they get stuck, they might ask you, hey, how should I do it? Instead of responding them, how would you do it if I'm not there? Making them to think aloud, asking them to speak a lot when they're coding, can really help you to understand how they approach the problem, where they look for the resources, so that it feels natural. So it doesn't feel like you're testing them. It's testing your developer portal. And another really good benefit about using Zoom, or you can also share screen and also give them the instructions. And you can also use an annotation tool from Zoom, where you can point out where the things they have to take care if they really get stuck. So you don't really have to kind of stay ahead, even though you want developers to do what they wanted to do and see, observe. The other technique which you can also use, and which is done quite popular by many companies, and this is I got from Stripe. They have a very nice technique about documenting everything, documenting when a new developer joins their team, they document all the actions they took while to getting up and running with the Stripe API or Stripe examples, challenges they've gone through. And by looking into those logs, you can also see what are the pain points we have and what are the best way we can improve them. And I took this inspiration, and I also used the new joiners as a participant for pair programming, because they're new to the tool, they have not used, so they are developers. So that way, there's a you get a really good feedback because they're not familiar with the platform, and that's also another easy way to get developer feedback and do a pair programming with them for user testing. And another important thing which I notice, it's very important to have sharing observations. Initial my pair programming session, a lot of things I ran alone, and it was fine. I was able to understand a lot of insights, and I was collecting them in Miro board and sharing it to the team. But the problem was it was not clear enough for my team. Again, I had to explain them why this is important, why compared to other opportunities, the other tasks. It was a double work for me to explain. What I realized is I started inviting my teammates as optional to these user interviews, the user pair programming session, where they were able to observe, but they were not talking, they were not asking questions, but they were turn off their user video and mute audio, and they were observing what the programmer is doing and also taking the notes parallelly. And once the session is done, I just need to just chat for them 10 minutes, like analyzing the result, discussing what are the observations. It was much easier. So all the team members, or most of the team members and decision makers, have a shared understanding, understand the problem, and it was very easy to influence the team to work on and fix that issue, rather than I again have to try to convince them and explain this is the problem, this is what I observed. That creates a better shared understanding with the team. And there's a great analogy from Jeff Patton where if you don't have the shared understanding, each team member will have a different impression about what this task is about and why it's important. I think once we start to be participating in the pair programming session, and you start to realize what the end user is trying to get it done, as a result, at the end, we all have a common shared understanding, and we know what to fix on, and we need less discussion later, and we need less approval, less arguments, so we can ship things faster with a shared understanding. Yeah.
Sorry to jump in there, Anil. I think that was a great summary. We've gone over time, unfortunately, so we're going to have to wrap it up. Do you need another 30 seconds or so?
Yeah, I think I can. I think I'm nearly at the end. So thank you for reminding. So I'm nearly at the end. So all I can refer you is 2 books really helped me to shape up my usability testing session. Is Steve Crook's Don't Make Me Think and the Mom Test. Highly recommend that. Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. And it's always good to look at the customer being the developer as well. It's not just always the end customer of it. I do have a question of more around kind of how does the pairing work, and how is it different from shadowing somebody? But we don't have time to jump into it at the moment, so I'm going to post that question on our Slack channel. And if anybody has any questions as well, I can see there's people in Dublin, people in Valencia, people in Berlin. If you have any questions that you want to send through, just post them there and I'll pass them through onto the Slack channel. But that's all we have time for today. So thank you very much, Anil, and thank you for sharing your insights about pair programming.
Thank you.